God bless. Thanks, Jeremiah again. I want to read Revelation 17 right quick, maybe 18, to see the difference and what it's saying. So let's just jump into it. Revelation chapter 17. And there came one of the seven angels which had that seven vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, and I'll show thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been drunk with the wine of her fornication. All right, so there's a whore that's going to be judged. Okay, so in order for John to see the judgment of this whore, verse 3 says, So he carries me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I see a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of names and blasphemies, having 7 heads and 10 horns. Now we know that the 10 horns, and there was a little horn that came out of the 10 that subdued the 3 or something or another, but we know that this Satan is described in Revelation chapter 12 and 13 as having 7 heads and 7 horns, but then in 13, 7 heads and 10 horns. And there was a woman arrayed in purple and scarlet colors, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of the abominations and filthiness of her fornication. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. Anytime you see women in prophecy, it's a religion. So see, John is being shown the judgment of the whore. Mystery, not Mystery Babylon, but Babylon, that great city, or that whore, which committed fornications with the kings of the earth. It can't be the bride, because the bride is not a whore. She's presented as a chaste virgin. So it ain't the church. So either it's Israel, which we know will go into captivity. Zechariah says half the city will go into captivity. Or it's America. I tend to think it's America. Ezekiel 38, there's from verse 1 through 9, it talks about the mountains of Israel. Oh God, may God come against his people, or Israel, in the land of mountains. But verse 10 to 13, 10 to 12, it talks about, and then at the same time, a strange thought will enter the, well, we'll go up against the people of Israel. It's hard to understand. It's the God of Israel, or the Israel of our God in Galatians. And those who are Israel are not those of the flesh, but those who are born of the Spirit. Those of the flesh are not the children of God. It just says that plain and simple. One body, one hope, one faith. One baptism, one calling. Anyway, so God is showing John the judgment of this whore, and it's going to come from a religious system. And I feel it's Islam. And the woman was drunken with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. It could be Islam. It could be a combination of Islam and Chrislam. That new stuff they got, you know, with the Pope and Islam coming together. But I don't see how that's going to work. But either way, it's a religious persecution here. And the angel said unto me, Wherefore did thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman and the beast that carried her, which hath the 7 heads and 10 horns. And the beast that thou sawest was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit. And we know that in Revelation 9, they had an angel over them that come out the bottomless pit, named Apollyon or Abaddon, the destroyer. We know that's Satan, Lucifer, whatever you want to call him. And he's also described in Revelation chapter 12, being cast out of heaven, done happen, having 7 heads and 10 horns or what have you. And he's a scarlet beast, it tells you, which is a red beast. The red dragon is scarlet. So it's an antichrist system, religion here. This is Muslims that are going to judge the harlot. Because this beast that thou sawest was and is not, was an angel, but is not, because he's fallen, and shall ascend into that bottomless pit and go into perdition. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names are not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was and is not and yet is. That was an angel, but yet ain't an angel, but he's still an angel. He's just a fallen angel. Here's the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. Them 7 mountains could be 7 continents. Satan's the ruler of this world. It don't have to be specifically 7 hills. It says, or like Mecca sits on 7 hills around that area, and I've heard Rome sits on 7. It says mountains. So Satan's influence is there 7 nations that that's I guess Islamic that he definitely has control of, or 7 continents. He's the God of this world, on which the woman sitteth. And there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, and 1 is, so there's 6, and the other is not yet come, the man of sin. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space. And the beast that was and is not, he is of the 8th, and of the 7th goeth into destruction. And that beast and the false prophet was thrown into the lake of fire. But Satan wasn't. He was bound for 1,000 years, and then he thrown into the lake of fire. So see, the beast is the man of sin, and the religion is the Islam, Antichrist. And both of them are going to be thrown in the lake of fire when Christ comes, and Satan will be bound. The beast, I'm trying to summarize this for you. And Jesus says Satan entered Judas. Judas, that didn't make Judas Satan. Judas was still Judas. The beast, or the man of sin, ain't Satan just because Satan enters him. See what I'm saying? Satan is still Satan, and the man of sin is still the man of sin. And they gave the Islam, the second beast, made all worship the first beast. Not necessarily the man of sin, because ain't nobody going to worship no man. But by unknowingly, by submitting to him or to Islam, you're serving Satan. And that's the first beast. It's twofold. And the beast that was and is not, even he is of the 8th and of the 7th, that go into perdition. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, who have received no kingdom as yet, but they receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. So we see it's Russia, Iran, China, North Korea, Turkey. All the names are mentioned right there in Ezekiel 38, 39. They're mentioned in Psalms 83 war. The Bible tells you the flesh persecutes the spirit in Galatians, talking about Isaac and Ishmael, or even Jacob or Esau. The flesh will always persecute the spirit. It just goes that way. Those of the world hear the world. Those of Christ, they don't hear us, but they persecute us. It's just there. And so these have one mind. These 10 kings with this religious antichrist system is going to attack the whore. Who is the whore? So Mystery Babylon ain't America. Mystery Babylon is the mystery about that Babylon system, which is a pagan system, is Islamic. And they join powers with the beast, the man of sin, and we see Russia gathering all these Islamic folks together. He's entering peacefully all these places. He's honoring the God of forces. And he does it with a strange God. Just my thoughts on it. Let God be true and every man a liar. This is just my feelings on it. But see, when we read this, we got to break it down. John says, okay, I'm going to show you the judgment of the whore. But I can't show you the judgment of the whore until I take you over here to the wilderness and show you who God is going to use to judge it. These shall make war with the Lamb, and with the Lamb shall overcome them. For he is the Lord of lords and kings and kings. And those that are with him are called, chosen, and faithful. That's a good thing. We're going to be with the Lord. It doesn't necessarily say we're going to be with the Lord prior to the judgment of the whore. But it does says, when we see these things happening, you look up, for your redemption draw near, because soon after, whatever, we will be with the Lord ultimately. And ultimately, when we're with the Lord, this system will definitely be in effect. And they're going to try to come against us, but God's going to destroy them out with the brightness of his coming. And he said unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth. See, now we're talking about the whore. Are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. Sounds like America, all kinds of folks over here. And this is reference to the whore. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and burn her, make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh, and burn her with fire. For God hath put it in their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree, and give their kingdom unto the beast, the man of sin, a.k.a. Satan behind it, until the words of God shall be fulfilled. And the woman which thou sawest is that great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth. Now it's referring to a woman being a great city. Not Mystery Babylon, it's the woman. And if you come over here to chapter 18, it's going to give you a little bit more description about Babylon, that woman, that great city, that whore that sits on many waters. Mystery Babylon by itself, though, is the Islamic nation. And that's the judgment is going to come from that system. The 10 kings with the beast, Islam, judging the whore, which is that great woman that ruleth over the other kings and the nations, and they committed fornication, which is the same whore that's going to be judged. And God is saying, another voice from heaven saying, come out of her, my people, be not partakers of her sins, that you receive not of her plagues. So the Apostle Paul writes, be ye separate, be sanctified, come out from amongst them. Not like he said, otherwise God would have to call us home, out of here, you know, to be away from all that stuff. Be separate. Be separate is all God is saying here. Be separate. Do not be partaker of our sins. Do not get involved in this. They're falling away, you know, with all that they're doing. The homosexual, LGBTQ, whatever that's going on, the abortions, the political backstabbing, murmuring, complainers, scoffers and mockers, and all the other sin that you see. Babylon is fallen. It's fallen. You can't fall unless you was in a previous state where you wasn't fallen. So see, Babylon is fallen now. This great nation was a Christian nation. At one time, they had Christians here anyway, regardless what the people in power was doing. There was Christians here. Now, we know what's restraining so that he may be redoing his own time. There's not too many people saved now. Not for real. I don't care about all these millions of churches and how many people sitting in them. A lot of them don't have the Holy Spirit, unfortunately. So see, now the man of sin is able to rise up and become more and more evident because there's only a few of us with the Holy Spirit. So see, the restrainer is being taken out of the way. The wickedness in man is being revealed. None of them, they're not saved. But anyway, so I was trying to clear this up so you can have a better understanding when reading Revelation 17 and 18. The whore, that woman, that great city, is the daughter of Babylon that you read about in Jeremiah 50:51. And her destruction is coming. Because we know ancient Babylon was way back in Jeremiah, the prophet's time. But the daughter of Babylon is today's present tense America. That's the daughter. Mystery Babylon is the Islamic nations rounded up by the man of sin, Vladimir Putin, I think. Because Vladimir means the one who rules the world. And Putin means self-confident nature. Boastful, proud. My eyes on him. I don't have to be right. Let God be true and every man a liar. Well, I love you, saints. I just wanted to put that out there. I know people don't understand Revelation like I do, but it's obviously in chapter 15 here. And I saw another sign in heaven, great and marvelous, 7 angels having the 7 last plagues, for in them is filled up the wrath of God, and we're not appointed for God's wrath. And I saw as it was a sea of glass mingled with fire, and them that's got the victory over the beast and over his image and over his mark and over the number of his name stand on the sea of glass having the harps of God or the praises of God. It's obvious we're not appointed for God's wrath because chapter 16 goes to the 7 vials of wrath. And at the end of it, it says that judgment came up in remembrance for God. So see, and then there's no mention of us being with the Lord per se as far as a rapture or being caught up after just chapter 15. Everything else says we're with the Lord. Like over here in chapter 17 when it was talking about it says, and these will make war with the Lamb. But those with him were called, chosen, we're already with him. So I know we're here up to a certain degree or to a certain point. Because that's the last point is mentioned. We're here in chapter 11. We're the witnesses. God says in Jeremiah chapter 5 verse, I'll have to look it up. I will put my words fire in your mouth. And every time we witness to the world, they reject God's truth, it's a torment to them. That's another subject. We can get to chapter 11 on another video. I love you, saints. I don't want to drag this out. I just wanted to show you how to break down Revelation 17. So you don't get confused when they talk about a woman and then a Babylon and a mystery Babylon and a whore. And you're like, what's going on here? The whore is still going to be judged, and it's judged by the 10 kings on a beast system with the religious antichrist pagan system, Mystery Babylon. Well, there you go, saints. Hopefully that helped open up some eyes. God bless. I love you. See you in the kingdom.